So typically we start the show off and we go into the list of patrons over on Patreon. We thank them and we praise them. But I wanted to do something a little different. I wanted to spotlight one particular Patreon. And I'm going to do this every single week. Someone that doesn't get mentioned ever in the list of stuff. But I just wanted to take a minute. Drew Agnew, amazing guy. I've met him over on Twitter and all this stuff. Just a good, great friend of ours, supporter of our content. So I just want to say thank you, Drew. I appreciate everything you do. And as well, we have our amazing gold members of Patreon, Brendan Myers, James Johnson, Ryan Turford, Coach Timbo, Dawn Becker, Nasty Boots and Tammy, and then our Diamond executive producers, Mr. Corey Hicks and Jonathan Brown. Now on to the amazing music by Mr. Chris O'Brien.
They're breaking down all the news and they're making it nice. Give Furukawa and Bowser all their business advice. Gonna answer your questions, gabbing on and on. If you like what you hear, go check out the Patreon. The Nintendo Guru, yeah, his name is Bobby. He loves all things Nintendo except maybe Kirby. And the greatest co-host in all of the land. You know it's Sean like Connor, it could be like the pants. If we ran Nintendo.
What is up, everybody, and welcome to episode 175 of If We Ran Nintendo. I am Bobby, the Nintendo Guru, joined by the greatest co-host in all the land, Mr. Sean Capre.
Mr. Bobby, I've got my Wawa cup here, man. I've got probably, I'm the best dressed today that I've ever been on this show. So if anybody, I know a lot of people listen to the audio today, you might want to check out the video version at youtube.com/Nintendo Guru.
Yes. Man, it's been a week. It's been a week.
I know.
I feel like
I don't think we talked at all this week.
No, I feel like
Where you been?
Well, I've been streaming like a madman, and
Yeah.
I had to do some running around this week. Tuesday, I had to go pick my dad up from the airport, so that was a whole thing.
That's a journey that is.
But I want to say this: like in the pre-ramble of the show, I mentioned Drew Agnew. I want to give this is before we do the shoutouts. But
wow.
if you want to look for a Nintendo podcast, The House of Mario.
Yeah.
Go check it out, man. Mm-hmm. These guys are fantastic. They do such a phenomenal job. I love their show. I listened to their show driving up to the airport, and I was like, man, this is so good. I need to get back on this wagon. You know what I mean? I had stepped away from it a little bit, and I had it because I don't listen to podcasts as much as I used to. I just don't have the time.
Your work is like 4 minutes away.
That's the problem. I literally, so, but that might change a little bit. And when that changes a little bit, I'm going to be picking up a lot more content the way we go.
What do you mean it might change a little bit?
I think I'll be doing some new tasks at work. I'm in charge of all the inventory of 2 different divisions of the company.
Yeah.
So a couple of days a week, I'm going to have to drive to one of the other companies, which is about 40 minutes away, do the counts over there, and then drive back. So I'm liking it. I like
Very
that
nice.
part of it.
Very nice, man. Well, you can either listen to podcasts or you can record a Nintendo Drive podcast. You know what I'm saying?
No, I'm not doing that.
All right.
So,
Sean,
let's kick this episode off like we do each and every episode with our shoutouts.
Geek outs. Oh my gosh, I got no geek outs. What are you doing, man?
I got geek outs.
Oh, you got geek outs, really?
If you see behind me, if you're watching the video, I actually set up the.
Oh, look at that!
The switches, the switch lights are on the shelf there.
They look like toys from here. You know, when like you look at something so far away, they look like people look like ants when you go up high enough.
Oh,
like
that's
amazing.
kind of.
Those are real Switch lights. You just have like
4 of them
for decoration.
Yeah, just 4 of them just laying there. Just
that
laying
Pokemon
there.
One is
but
really
you know what?
Nice.
Pokemon one is nice, but I realized the back sucks. The etching of the legendaries, it's just real hard to see. It doesn't stand out. They could have done a little better with that, I think. But that aside, my first shout out is a shout out and an apology. Mr. Greg Caldwell. So I would say a few weeks ago, we talked about, and I was angry about how you basically are locking your saves and all your stuff. The cross save stuff doesn't work for all games. It's annoying. But found out this week that's wrong, and I'm an idiot. You can individually save files from console to console. Mm-hmm. So like this week, I was playing Dragon Quest, and my save file was on the Switch Lite. And I went to go, and it's this weird thing where when the first time you need to play a little bit on the Switch Lite, save it into cloud, and then it'll transfer over. Well, I hadn't done that yet, and I just wanted to get the game over, the save file over, because I was going to stream that night and stream Dragon Quest. I click and I look and I go, wait a minute, I can move the whole save file over. So you can do that for Splatoon, you could do that for Animal Crossing, you could do that for Pokemon. So if you want to take it on the go, and it's not that long, seriously, it's not that long, 20 seconds, and it moves right over. It is so fast and fluid, you don't even, it's not, is it the best solution in the world? Absolutely not. But there is a solution, and it's not that difficult to get to. So I understand now what Greg was saying, when Greg was saying, like, the transfer. I didn't realize you could actually transfer individual save files over to one to the other. So which helps for a game like Splatoon. So I had put so many hours into Splatoon, and the whole point of me playing Splatoon mainly nowadays is to stream it. But I had to start over. But now I can actually just transfer that.
And you did it?
I'm going to do it today, yes. I've done it for other stuff.
Manual, though? Like, I'm glad that there's a solution, but, like, that doesn't...
Because certain games they don't want to have cloud saving for.
Yeah, you're not gonna win me over on that thing.
Listen,
like I said, I'm glad that there's a solution, but like God, that's even worse. That actually makes it. Like,
it's not worse. Don't say that. It's not worse.
The solution is not worse.
No.
The frustration is worse.
Well, for whatever reason, they don't want certain games to have cloud save. That's their decision. Whatever their reasoning behind it, I don't necessarily understand it completely. That's theirs. That's their decision to make.
Can I ask you a serious question, though, Bobby?
Yeah, go ahead.
What flavor is the Nintendo Kool-Aid? Like, just let me know when. Like, what does it taste like?
It's not. You know what? Don't be a dick. I'm being honest. What I'm saying is listen. Every company has a reason to do what they want to do. That's their decision. I don't live in this hyperbolic world that we live in nowadays where I go, you have to change it for me. No, there's a reason behind it for them, and that's fine. It may not be the best solution and the thing that works, but for me, there's a workaround. If there was no
that is good news.
I was pissed.
I'm not trying to say it's not good news.
I was pissed originally when I thought there was no workaround. Now that there's a workaround, I'm like, okay, I could walk it back a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not the best solution. I know that. It's not the greatest solution. I know that. But there's a workaround. I can work with that, and I'm fine. Because my feeling was, man, if I go away on vacation, I really don't want to take my OG Switch. I want my OG Switch docked at all times, left there, done.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it is weird.
Isn't that weird how you go from, like, you love the Switch, you can do both things, but you're like, this thing's just going to stay put.
Yeah.
And that lends itself to that conversation that we continue to have. Like, do we need just this console Switch?
Yeah.
Like, just always there.
So for me, it's like, I got this thing there, it's there, done. These things are more convenient to carry around.
Big time.
I could literally fit it in my back pocket. Can't do that with the OG Switch. So for me, like if I go to Disney, I go other places, that's the one I want to take, the Switch Lite. So my thinking was, man, if I go away, I can't play Animal Crossing for a week. I can, but it's going to be a pain in the butt. Now it's not. I could just transfer that file over to my Switch Lite, go away for a week, come back, transfer it back over to the big Switch. I'm good to go. We're done. So anyway, that's a long shout out.
No, I like it. I actually kind of like the shout out. Kind of sparked up a bit of a Nintendo conversation. Greg Caldwell will do that though.
Oh, he does. I love Greg. Greg is fantastic. Greg is fantastic. Real quick, I have a few more shout outs. Nick and Jen Militia. They are actually coming over at 12 o'clock today.
Get lost.
She's coming to pick up the Switch that she won during the giveaway, during the Extra Life, and then we're gonna hang out and go to lunch and stuff. So
no way! Oh, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I'm pretty jealous. I'm just gonna be here with the kids, I guess.
Yeah, I win. I win that one.
Yeah. No kidding.
No, you know what? Your kids are pretty good.
They're pretty awesome.
I did see a picture this week. I guess Lincoln got put in timeout.
Lincoln's starting to put himself in timeout.
Is he?
He's so funny. He'll because it's very regimented. It's very structured. This timeout thing. He gets in trouble. He knows when we're upset with him, and he'll go put himself on the stairs, and he'll sort of like mumble like, "Hey Google, set the timer for 2 minutes."
No, he does not.
He starts and his like, "Hey Google" is hilarious. Hey Google. Hey, go! He really tries to get it started. He gets it every once in a while.
How do you punish a kid that's smart that just goes,
so
okay,
funny.
I did this wrong?
Pretty much.
Because the whole idea of timeout is to teach a lesson.
Yeah.
And to be like, you're not supposed to be doing this. The kid obviously knows. Like,
well, part of it is just to like take them out of the situation as well, just to like physically remove them from like, this is bad, move them over here so they just like have that physical separation so he can think about it for a little bit. But it's so funny. He just like, he waltzes over, he's 2 steps on, he looks like he's being a good kid because he's just right there, just like his knees are together, sitting up straight, just looking at you, just like, all right, start the timer. And he knows when the timer is up, it does a diddly-diddly, and he goes stop, and he'll stop it.
That's funny.
So he's growing up, man.
That kid is too smart, man. He's
so funny.
He is going to work you and Chelsea mentally for a long time.
No kidding. No kidding. I have no doubt, man. Well, that's good because, you know, the AI is going to come take all our jobs, so you better be smart.
That's true, too. Do you have any shout-outs, Sean?
Well, I do have a couple. I want to start things out. I would be remiss if I did not start, and she'll never listen to this, but Chelsea, my wife, is an absolute rock star. I don't know how she does half of the things that she does. This week, Ellie turned 1, and she took it like a champ. It's kind of crazy just to think that a year ago we were in the hospital and all of that stuff kind of happened. And I just want to, if anybody's listening to this, I think we've got like a 3-week thing running of people doing something on the internet. And if we can rally around Chelsea a little bit, her baby grew up, her baby turned 1. I would really appreciate that because she's, you know.
I'm not going to do it. I refuse to do it.
Well, you're a son of a bitch.
No, because if she would have named her Bobby Capri, we wouldn't have this problem. I would absolutely do it. But Chelsea took the first shots. So, I'm just kidding. I'm only kidding. I love Chelsea to death.
I know. Ellie turned 1, and we had a party yesterday, and Chelsea put in a ton of work.
Oh, she always does.
She just is amazing. So, that's really, I just wanted to call that.
You got super lucky, man. I don't know how you did it.
I'm a nice person, Bobby.
I don't know about that. I don't know about
nice.
that. Like, let's rein it in. Let's rein it in over there.
Oh my gosh, you're such an ass. My second shout out is Chris Becker, the Nintendad, Super Nintendad even. He reached out to me. I don't even want to get really into it. He reached out to me in a moment where I needed a little pick me up, and I just really appreciate that. He said something completely like unrelated, and we had a quick conversation about just like recording podcasts and stuff. And it's just amazing how when somebody can reach out to you and say like, "Hey man, I like your stuff," like it's always it shouldn't even surprise me anymore. They're like, "Oh man, I needed that at that moment." Yeah. It's always the right moment to hear something like that, and so I just really appreciated that. Super Nintendad.
I got 2 more shout-outs that I want to throw out there. One is for Lloyd Cookson, Insane Lloyd. I haven't been streaming on YouTube as much anymore. And Lloyd always used to pop in there and hang out and stuff. But Lloyd, thank you so much for, he tweeted this week and said a couple things. I appreciate it, man. And the other one is Scott McLinden. Scott McLinden. Dude always will send me a message over on Instagram, ask how I'm doing, always checks in. Like, he'll listen to the podcasts and he'll hear me maybe talk about my health or whatever it is, and then he just sends me a DM over on Instagram. And it's the most inundated messaging system it is. Like, it hits, but like it gets hidden real quick.
Yeah.
And then I'll go through and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I got a message here, and I'll click it and I'm like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, both Lloyd and Scott. I appreciate you guys very, very much, man. You guys don't know how much you mean to me personally, and so thank you for that. You have anything else, or
that's it? Okay, you got more?
No, that's it. That's all I have. Todd Ox just crying like a little baby right now. So
I gotta. Oh, wait! I am geeking out about something.
Okay, there you go.
I messaged you about it. It's funny because like you know about these things, but I sold my green screen, Bobby. I asked you like, Bobby, what do you think? Like, because like I like the background. I think my background is nice, but I remove it for the streams. I do the green screen. I think it looks sharp and everything. So I'm like, what do you think? Like, should I get rid of the green screen or should I keep it? And you're like, no, definitely keep the green screen. So I'm like, okay, so I sold the green screen. You're like, are you insane? Like, what are you doing? And it's because I bought another one. Because I sold the one that I had was the Elgato, and it pops up from the floor. Yeah. Right? Very easy, and it's the perfect green. It doesn't wrinkle. It's all great. and it's worked out well for me for I think a little over a year.
Yeah.
Back when in the MUB days, that green screen was a MUB purchase,
Nice.
which is awesome. It really took the stream up another level, I think. So I sold it because it's not very wide. So you do, I think anybody who uses it knows you have to have it like right up against you, and you've got to crop your video so that the green screen covers everything you need to on the stream. And I keep backing into this thing. And I keep moving it, and it's frustrating, and I don't have a whole lot of room anyways, and it's taking up all this floor space. And I found out Elgato has this, like a movie screen, like a pull-down projection screen that you can mount to the ceiling. And I bought it. I sold the other one, and it basically covered the price of this one. They're like basically the same price, like $200 Canadian. And it's amazing. I just have to mount it, but it's so wide. I could get up and I could stretch my arms out.
That's good
and
stuff.
and it'll cover. So it gets it up off the ground. I'm super stoked about that. But now that I don't have a green screen, I'm like, man, this background looks pretty good, man. Just set up I might have to set up a couple different angles. And I could even do like this. And you convinced me. You're like, no, definitely do the green screen because you do fun stuff with the green screen.
Yeah,
You're right. I do fun stuff.
Yeah.
But now I can do even more fun stuff because I imagine just like the thing like zipping up. And then there's the background, and then the thing zipping down. There's something else. Oh, that's a good idea.
Listen, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. My setup is like this is not many people do this, right?
Spend $14,000 on lights. You're right.
Yeah, and I was afraid that like people would see yours and go, "Oh man, Sean has a really great setup," and then I would feel like you're pulling from me. So I figured if you have the green screen, you enjoy after work, stay in your little nook of the world, and I'm good over here.
Well, I've seriously thought about like because we've got a couple extra cell phones over the years, we could just have them like shining lights in the background, and I could just put some like color tape over them or something like that. I could do that, Bobby. I'd set a fire because of it.
Probably.
Won't be fire safe.
I still need a couple more lights. You
do not need a couple more. Well, maybe in front of you. Is that what you're saying?
No. See that shelf there? There's no light there.
Lots of
there's
light.
No light there,
You're
and there's
fine.
no light there. So I have to 3 on each side. So I need 3 more sets.
Oh man, well let's start a GoFundMe for Bobby's lights.
Now I'm just waiting I'm hoping on Black Friday they go on sale. If they do, I'm buying
Friday.
them.
Oh my god, I love Black Friday.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh goodness gracious.
Okay, so
Todd.
let's jump into our topic of the show, and that is, if we ran Nintendo, how would we fix future Pokemon games? So I want to start off with this, and I talked about it a little bit, where before the show started, you and I talked a little bit, where I was spending a little bit more time this week in the NVC Facebook group. Mm-hmm. And man, you want to talk about you want to make your life feel better, like you want to feel better about yourself, go hang out over there.
Oh, wow.
And just hang out with the miserable people that are just straight up, no, I'm serious, just straight up destroying people.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that they're not happy with this game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just amazing to me to take a company like Game Freak that has made games for you for over 20 years, has always, in my eyes, tried to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. And because, let's be honest, because Nintendo fans are so good when a company announces a delay of a game, that they push to get this thing out on time.
Yeah.
Game Freak always hits their dates. Always hits their dates.
That's true.
And here's a company that, because they didn't do a little extra. Now, the National Pokédex, I get and I don't get. There's a couple of different reasonings behind it.
Okay, I'm a dum-dum. I don't know what's going on.
Okay, so basically, here's the thing.
Pokédex?
You played the original Pokemon. You collected 103 Pokemon, right?
I sure did.
Whatever.
Yep.
So then the second Pokemon game comes out.
Yeah, I love that one too.
And they took all the Pokemon from the first one and put them in the second game.
Yep.
Right? Now you have Gen 1, Gen 2 in the same game.
Totally.
Then the third Pokemon game comes out, and they take all of Gen 1, Gen 2, and throw them in with Gen 3.
Yep.
And they've continued to do this through every iteration. This time, they didn't do that.
Yeah, because there's like 1,200 Pokemon.
That's number one. There's a lot. I think it's over 1,000 now, right? But the whole idea, the first reasoning was that they wanted you to spend time with the new Pokemon to get a better feel for them, to learn them, to fall in love with new Pokemon. And I think that reasoning makes sense to me, but that wasn't good enough. You know, that was, we're going to light the whole world on fire, because that's not good enough. The fans came back and they feel like, because they have these Dynamax evolutions, where I think if you saw the trailers, where the Pokemon get really massive, right? That's Dynamaxing, right? And they're saying, the fans are saying, well, Game Freak wanted to cut corners and not do Dynamaxing for over 1,000 different Pokemon. And that could be true. That absolutely. I don't
know if I'm calling that cutting corners, though.
Yeah, I know. I could absolutely see that.
Yeah.
And I could see where Game Freak might have done that, and that's fine. Again, it's their decision. They're making the game. They have to figure out what's important, what's not important. But what I've seen in playing the game for a short period of time yesterday, I played for 2-3 hours, right? They are right with the Pokemon. They do feel fresh and new. They do feel, the art style, I feel, is very cartoony. Like they're more cutesy, and some of them are. Some of them look, but they have like a really good, genuine art style to them. The ones that I've seen, and I'm liking the ones that I've seen so far. Where the one thing that I felt when I played X and Y was I wasn't finding a lot of new Pokemon. I was finding a lot of old Pokemon.
Yeah,
and I like this. You know, and granted, I'm not going to sit here and act like I beat X and Y or any of that. I didn't. But I think that what Game Freak was ultimately trying to do was test something out. We live in this world where it's like, we need to do new things. You need to do new things. It's the same old stuff. Pokemon is a stale franchise. They needed to try something different. Yeah. But at the same time, I feel like, and this is where I want to start with this conversation. This game that we just got, I don't believe is built from the ground up for the Switch. I feel like this game started as a 3DS title. And
really?
Then, yeah, I absolutely do. I don't feel like they had enough time to rebuild an engine. To do a new engine, to do all that, it takes 5 years.
Yeah.
They didn't have 5 years to put this game out. I feel like this game started on the 3DS engine, and they thought to themselves, okay, this is the first foray into home consoles. We need to do a little bit more. There is things that, like, when you look at the internet, there's all these developers apparently that are like, you know, they haven't made a game yet, but they're the greatest developers in all the world.
Of course, yeah, I see what you mean.
And they're getting called out by other real developers. Like, what are you talking about? You don't even know what you're talking about. There's these things where, like, as you go through the town, the draw distance isn't far. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And all of a sudden you'll see you're walking and there's nothing, and then boom, something pops up. Yeah. And it's like, okay, the draw distance isn't there. But when I played I played Shield. I put it in Shield. When I was playing Pokemon Shield or Sword yesterday, it just, to me, looks really good. It looks gorgeous. I like the game so far. I think it looks and feels really good. Now, granted, I'm not going to sit here and act like I've been playing Pokemon for 20 years. I haven't. I just recently jumped on this bandwagon. So I'm not going to sit here and try to tell people that, like, you're wrong in feeling how you feel. I get where some of it's coming from. Is the National Pokedex being pulled out of this game upsetting? It doesn't upset me.
I see. Okay, so that's funny because I knew all of that stuff. I didn't know that that's what was called the National Pokedex. So, like,
that's what they call it.
Because they were clear about this to begin with, which I think is
get-go.
Like, that's step number one. It's not like they just, like, sprung it. It's not like a Google Stadia situation where they're like, features, just kidding, they're not coming. Which, by the way, I've canceled my pre-order. And by that, I mean, told Chelsea that it's no longer on my Christmas list. And she's like, okay, I'm not buying it for you anyway. Anyway, they communicated this perfectly well. This is something that we've known was coming. And to your point of, like, you're starting the game and you're getting fresh Pokemon, like, isn't that better? Like, are we so locked into our habitual, like, routine nature that if we actually make something, like, objectively more fresh, that it's bad? It reminds me of, like, the Addams Family cartoon back in the day, Bobby, when they wanted a stale donut. I'm like, who would want a stale donut? It's like, this Pokemon fans, they want the stale donut. They don't want a fresh donut.
No.
It's weird reference.
It is
Nobody can remember
weird.
that.
But it is weird because we live in this world where it's you're constantly getting yelled, like Nintendo, Game Freak, these companies are constantly getting yelled at. You do the same game over and over and over and over again. You don't ever change it. And I felt, and I've said this for a long time, that like with the Switch, they've kind of started to make changes to franchises, tried to implement new things. This, I feel like for Game Freak, was a first step.
Yeah.
I feel like the next real franchise game is going to be, more of what people expected.
Oh, you think they're gonna regress even?
No. I think they're going to take it and raise it a level. They're going to, and that's what I want to get into with the future fixes. So for me, right off Jump Street, I feel like the first step, and this is not just a Pokemon fix. Mm-hmm. This is something I would do if we ran Nintendo. This would be all franchises moving forward. Mm-hmm. Voice acting.
Oh, yeah.
Ground up voice acting.
Mm-hmm.
A game like Link's Awakening, no. A game like a side-scrolling 2D Mario game, no. But but Luigi's Mansion should have voice acting.
Interesting.
Pokemon should have voice acting. There's no reason in the world. When you go from a game like Dragon Quest XI, where there's so much voice acting, and it's just a little bit that's not. You go to a game like Fire Emblem, Three Houses, where it's overwhelming voice acting. Yeah. Just a little bit doesn't have it. Man, there's no reason in the world that a game that makes as much money as Pokemon does, they don't put a little bit of extra effort into it. Moving forward.
Can you imagine the explosion? Can you imagine the what? So I guess what I want to establish first before we even dive any deeper is like what do we mean by fix? Like, are we trying to appease Pokemon fans, or are we trying to?
No, I think no. We're trying to do legitimately what I feel like the franchise needs. Moving forward.
Okay. Like regardless of people getting upset, because this is going to be this. Well,
do you know me as a person that cares if I upset people?
I just wanted to clarify, man. I agree. I'm like it's.
Well, okay. Let's jump on the National Pokédex, because that seems like the biggest elephant in the room and the biggest issue.
Yeah.
Do I feel like it all needs to come back?
Yeah.
Yes and no.
DLC, baby, charge them for it.
I don't feel like you need to do that, because that would be a bad idea. Calm down, EA. You're gonna really piss people off. But what I would do is, if it was me, I would say, okay, we heard you. You're upset about this. Mm-hmm. Moving forward, and I do know that you have to reach a certain point before you could transfer in your old Pokemon.
Yeah.
I would bring the National Pokédex back. I would basically make it where it's endgame content. If you want to go out, search for everything. After, the way I would do it is, after you basically beat the game, because there's endgame content to this. Because you still got to go after legendaries and all that stuff. But after you beat the game and become champion, then I would say, okay, you're bringing in your Pokemon. You're allowed to do what you want to do. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that is the way it's always been done. And moving forward, if I'm in charge of this and I got to say so, if we have to delay the game in order to properly complete things, then we delay the game. It just is what it is. And that's, the thing with Pokemon is Pokemon always shoots for the same date. They always try to do... I would still try to shoot for the same date. Yeah. But if you can't hit it, you can't hit it. And I'm not saying I would delay the game a year because you want to be in the same date, but maybe that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not a bad thing to go, hey guys, we can give you this version and you're not going to be happy with it, or we're going to take a year and make sure all the Pokemon are Dynamaxed and all that stuff. So I would just say that I would continue to move forward with it. I would continue to get it to what it needs to be. But I would also be willing to put a delay in for up to 1 year to go, this game just isn't ready yet. We're going to have to let it bake a little longer.
Right.
So right now, my two things are voice acting National Pokedex does come back.
Okay. So I think that that is really the only answer. I don't know that. I don't know if they've really mentioned that it's the intent that future games never go back to it. It's just like, is it just a this game kind of thing? Can you like? Is it still even a Pokemon game if you were to move this into like a shared world type of situation where it's like a World of Warcraft where we're going around the world and we're collecting our Pokemon together, we're doing raids and everything like that, and that's where you bring like your history in, because like it's one thing, like I think the value of bringing all your Pokemon forward is, number one, it's like it just kind of shows your legacy and your loyalty and commitment to the franchise. But like, what if it actually helped like all of us together within the same battle, and it's not just about trading Pokemon or anything like that? Can we shift genres even? Is that the future of Pokemon?
What I was going to say is what I would basically do, and I believe I could be wrong. Don't kill me. I believe it was Black and White, where when you beat the game, you could travel back to Kanto and replay that game over within that game.
Yeah.
And what I would like to see moving forward with Pokemon is you start off and you play your region, right? Whatever the new region of the new world is, right? So this to me is the next Pokemon game.
Yeah.
First off, okay, we'll get into where we're going, but I would basically go like, here's your region, whatever it is, Guruopolis, whatever. That's the region of the next one. That's your next gen, right? Once you beat that region, it opens every single region you've ever played in the entire franchise, the entire year.
Pokemon Ultimate.
I'm going Ultimate with the next one.
Yeah.
And then you allow people to go back to whatever region they loved, replay it, go through, fight the gyms, take it over, and basically the idea of the game is to become the grand champion of all Pokemon. Like,
I mean, that's the level. Like, and I agree that would be amazing, but like that's the level that we're at with Pokemon. Yeah. Is like that's what it's gonna take to please people.
Absolutely.
Is like, put all the games into one.
You're absolutely right.
Insane.
Yeah.
That's insane. So like part of it is, and that's why I wanted to clarify at the start, like what is our goal? I'm like, kind of like, I almost just want to like, if these people are going to be toxic to the community and they're not going to be pleased at all, like screw them, like move forward with the National Pokedex not being carried forward. Like just like, this is the new era of Pokemon. Like that's part of what I think about.
What I would do,
because I'm spiteful, Bobby.
I get that, but my feeling is what I would do is you have this Let's Go franchise. That's interesting. That would be my no Pokedex.
So that's kind of that shared world thing that I was talking about. But you're right. Yeah, like yes, it's kind of that Pokemon Go, Let's Go.
Yeah, I think you keep what I would do is I would keep. You have two different franchises, so to speak.
Yes.
And these rules that you set in this game would be adhered to in the Let's Go series.
Yeah, for crusty old fans.
Yes. And then you would basically take the new franchise and go, okay, this one is going to be, we're going to be able to go back to the past, do this. You'll be able to become the grand champion. Because ultimately, that's what Ash does in the Pokemon games. I'm sorry, the cartoon. He goes forward, as the new regions comes, he goes into the new regions, he catches these new Pokemon. The whole idea is to beat the region, to become the grand champion of that region. That's what people would ultimately want.
Yeah.
That's what people would want to be. I think that would make people happy, where they could go out and they could just play and do all this crazy stuff and just go across the world. Go back into the other regions, go to Kanto, go to all these different ones, and just go like, here we go, this is it, let's go. We're gonna basically become the champion of those.
Yeah.
The other thing,
I like that.
The other thing that I would probably do, is I would, and I don't want to say this in the terms of Breath of the Wild because I'm not looking for Breath of the Wild, but I'm looking for a more open world feel to it. Not so much in the terms of like it can still be linear, but man, I'm playing this game and I feel like I got a shackle around my neck and I'm being dragged all over the place.
Oh, really?
In terms of like man, if this guy tells me one more time that this little idiot that I'm kicking the crap out of is my rival,
Yeah.
I already know. I already beat him twice. Do I really need for you to tell me like 18 times this is my rival? I know who it is. Like, okay, let's just move on. You know what I mean? So but not only that, it's like, hey, come this way, and it's like I go running down the trail, and there he is halfway down waiting for me, and it's like I know where I'm going. It's not that difficult. There's only one path to get there.
Maybe that's something to discuss too, because like Pokemon's baby's first RPG is really,
pretty much,
and it's
pretty much.
like how challenging is that to create this thing that like you have to appease these people who have literally grown up. Now we've all become adults and we've had kids, and our first RPG was Pokemon. Like the span of fans is insane. So like, what do you do about that? How do you make a game that are for people who've been playing games now for decades? They've grown up since then. They've matured. So to speak.
It's simple. We've already answered that question. The Let's Go series is for the new people. Mm-hmm. The Let's Go series is your entry-level introduction into the series, into the franchise. So basically what I would do with Let's Go, number one, pull out the stupid catch mechanics where you're trying to catch everything. Go implement the strategy of Pokemon into those games, meaning it's battles, stuff like that. I mean, the catch mechanic isn't the worst thing in the world, but you're not implementing that into the future games. They did take some stuff, Sean, from Let's Go and implement it into this game where there's times where you actually see the Pokemon walking around and you can go approach them. Where in the past, they weren't there.
Blind.
It was blind random attacks. So they are taking some stuff from Let's Go and moving it over, which is great. But the way I would treat it is the hardcore franchise. This Sword and Shield would be for our tried and true 20-year veterans, the people that have followed us all along. You take the handcuffs off and you go. You've been here long enough, go. I think the problem with this is what they're trying to do is they're trying to appease two audiences. They're trying to make it easy for new people to come in, and they're trying to make it hard for people that have been there forever. And you can't, with a 20-year-old franchise, you can't do it. You got to pick a path and go.
Yeah.
And I think that's where they're torn. It's like, well, what do we do? Well, you've already implemented. You've already created this setup where, hey, we got the Let's Go franchise. Make that for the people that don't know what the franchise is, don't know what the series is. This is an introduction to them.
Well, wouldn't it be nice if they sort of followed what Zelda did, like years and years ago, where you've got 3D, you've got over the top. Like, even just the perspective can change. It can alter what you were expecting from the type of game. Like we expect different things from 3D games just in general, and specifically with Zelda. I think that totally would work out with Pokemon, even especially if you think back to the old like Game Boy games. Like all RPGs back then looked the same anyway. So just lock that in from a perspective, and then have a 3D open world game that you're talking about. Yeah,
and that to me would be the way to do it. Like that would be the way to just go. This is how we're doing it. This is how we're moving it forward. Yeah, I would. Last thing that I would do. So right now, just to recap, voice acting we've already added. Pokedex comes back, and a more open feel, I don't want an open world, but an open feel to it, not locked down. And when you beat the game, it opens it up to all the regions. So it's the ultimate Grand Champion edition of sorts. That's the way I would move forward. The last thing that I would do, I would shut up the critics about the way the thing looks, and I would revamp the graphics. Change the art style. It has been a very similar art style for many, many years. Yeah. It's time for an upgrade. Yeah. And the art style, I love the presentation of the battles. It's different. It feels like you're watching it on TV. Like they'll have split screens, and then like a screen goes across horizontally, and then like you see the two Pokemon, and they're like fading across. Like the presentation style, I think, is really good. But let's just take it from the ultra cartoony to just, it can still be cartoony, but just change the art style a little bit. And what I mean by that is Zelda, every single game.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. So you don't have to be Breath of the Wild type graphics, but like, man, just change the art style. Even if you went to like if you look at, man, the last, I mean, you look at from the GameCube, or I'm sorry, the N64 to now, I don't think there's, other than like Ocarina and Majora's Mask, I don't think there's a single Zelda game that looks alike.
Yeah.
Every one.
The biggest difference there is you don't have 1,200 Pokemon to adjust for the new art style too. So it's like it's like this giant anchor, and I feel like that's a huge reason why they want to drop it at this stage, just to try and like let some dead weight go and then move forward. Unfortunately, some of that dead weight's like Squirtle and some of our favorites. You know what I mean?
And and you're absolutely right. And that's part of the problem is you have these Pokemon that are like, man, you got 20 years of love. It'd be no different. Okay.
I mean, that'd be what. So if I'm going to say something about if we're going to fix Pokemon, I think that dropping many. I think they're on to something there. You do have to drop some of them, but if they're a starter, not even close.
No,
you don't touch them. They're definitely, that's how people have come to know your game, your franchise.
Absolutely. And the thing of it is they dropped starters, right?
That's what I'm saying.
So they dropped some starters for stupid characters like Sadat, which is like Acorn looking dude, and it's like, wait, that's what you kept? You kept that, and you got rid of, why? Like, and that's, I think that's where people are just frustrated. Yeah, is in the choices.
Exactly.
Do you need to whittle down? Do you need to whittle down the 1,200? Yes, absolutely. But what I would do is, and maybe you just go a la Smash Ballot, right? You just go, here's a ballot, 1,200 Pokemon. We're only keeping 500.
Yeah.
We're going to slash it in half. We're keeping 500. Vote now. Which
is still an insane number of, like, we're actually talking about characters with movesets and things that are unique about them, designs, everything like that. It's 500. Like, I think the number is so big we can't conceive it anymore. That's really the problem. But you got to get Justin Moosin in there too, Bobby. You got to save some room for Justin Moosin from Nintendo Dads.
Well, here's the thing. and as we were talking, it hit me. It would almost be like I go and I buy the new Animal Crossing. Yeah. And all of a sudden they go, Bill ain't in here no more. KK Slider ain't in here no more. Brewster's not in here no more. I would be like, wait, what? What are you talking about? And it would devastate me. So I can understand where people are upset that their favorites aren't available. And,
of course.
But there's also, you got to remember, like, with the bank, and now it's Pokemon Home, and I don't really know exactly how all that works. It coincides with this game. Because the bank, what it was you would just upload your characters into the bank. Then you would take them from the bank to your new game.
Which means that they have the data to say which ones people care about, which ones they're using, which ones they actually even have. Like, they have all the information they need to make a really good decision, and then to back it up to say, like, based on what we're seeing, these are the reasons why we're like, the data would never show nobody cares about Bulbasaur. Like, that makes no sense.
Never.
So yeah, that's my biggest thing.
I mean, dude, you put the character in Smash. That's gotta say something.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you made an amiibo of the character, something's got to tell you don't get rid of it.
Yeah, and if an idiot like me even knows who this is and thinks that he's cute, then he's got to be in there.
Yeah, it's got to be in there.
He's kind of iconic.
I wonder though if they're going to slowly roll some characters out and just it could be like a DLC, like a patch type thing. Like, hey, we've. Maybe they just wanted to hit their date and then they hit an update. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, it seems a little crazy to me, but who knows?
Yeah. It'd be a way to keep bringing them back in. Because do they do, like, paid DLC in Pokemon?
No.
They just, like, they launch out the game and that's it just because, like, people buy.
Well, they do.
I mean, there's 2 games. That's
so basically,
I guess game's a DLC.
I guess their paid DLC is kind of when they do, like when they did Sun and Moon and then they did Ultra Sun and Moon.
Yeah.
And they add stuff in and they make like all that might be what I would consider kind of like
the whole model's different.
Definitely different. But Sean, we have this place called patreon.com/YouMakeCapri. And did you know that for as little as $1 a month, you too could ask us a question on this show every single week.
I can't pitch questions to this show.
So, yeah, pretty much. So Zachary Bradshaw, he threw us a question this week, and it said, I would like to know what you fellas would do to create an ecosystem within Nintendo. In 5 years, are we going to be tossing our cartridges in a box and buying new Switch Pro with mini discs? Who knows? I know a lot of us have a good deal of money invested into our Switch hardware and software. I just wish we knew what the long-term vision is. Xbox is killing it in this department, and in turn has brought me back into the fold. What would y'all do? Love the show. So, Zach, thank you very much, first off, for listening. Thank you for the question. Thank you for being a Patreon. I appreciate that. I think, number one, I think the cartridges are here to stay. The only reason that Nintendo... First off, the mini disc thing, that's coming from a bunch of people that don't know what the hell they're talking about, and they're just trying to throw
Is
something
that a thing that's
there.
going around? People want mini discs in this
People are
thing?
saying... They're bringing up the UMD discs that Sony had for the PSP.
Yeah, sure.
That's not happening. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I think that Nintendo has always wanted to do a cartridge system. The only reason they moved to discs in the first place was because of people crying.
Yeah.
They were okay, twofold. Partly was people crying. Partly was they just didn't have nothing storage wise that could handle
Yeah, nothing close.
the games that they were putting out that time. And now they're back to this. I mean, you look at the size of that disc. That disc is nothing.
Yeah.
Or the cartridge. I'm sorry. The cartridge is nothing, and they're cramming all this information onto it. We've hit a time and a period where cartridges are kind of the way it goes.
Yeah.
Additionally, I think we're also in a situation where we're moving closer and closer and closer to a day where there is no physical.
Yeah.
And when that day comes, it doesn't really matter what the actual physicality is of the thing. It's not going to be. It's going to be non-existent. Which, to be honest, part of me is like yes, and then part of me is like ugh, because I feel like the fact that I can actually go to a retro shop like Nick Militia has, right, and I can go buy an NES game and then come home and play it 30 years later is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But you can't with digital games. You run into that problem where they're gone, and you can't ever get them again.
Yeah.
You get a situation like Telltale where the company goes out of business. There's games you're never going to be able to play again unless you bought them the first time.
Yeah.
You're never going to be able to walk into a mom and pop shop and grab those games and play them.
There's got to be, I mean, I know that that's generally the narrative, but at the same time, like maybe we just haven't had enough time removed or separated from the time when that was how the game was originally put out there. So what I'm trying to say is emulation has solved the issue of games that we can't get our actual hands on for cartridges, like games that either have never come over or there was rare stock. Emulation has sort of like filled that gap, and I wonder if that will be the future for digital games, that we can't buy this game legit, but maybe somebody's cracked the code on emulation. We can have ROMs essentially for some of these digital games. I'm sure that will come into play in a similar fashion. It will actually like feel very similar in the way that we rationalize it. Like it'd be okay with downloading it, which is essentially stealing. You probably shouldn't steal, but I just wanted to kind of like put that out there because I know that's generally people go digital when the game's gone, it's gone. But at the same time, like it may be easier than ever to redistribute, and because it's actually more natural to how it was originally rolled out.
Well, to be fair, Nintendo doesn't make it easy,
Well, that's for sure,
and that's part of the problem ultimately.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and act like they're the greatest company to deal with when it comes to getting their franchises.
Yeah.
They're literally shutting down emulation sites, and I am all for that. I'm not going to act like because I feel like emulation is stealing. I don't do that. But at the same time, man, people want your games. Put your games out there for people to buy. You know what I mean? Which is another topic for a whole different show. But
well, is it part of this ecosystem though? Is part of it like really locking down like the past so that you can move into the future? And I think too is I don't think that he really outlines it for Xbox, but when he refers to Xbox, I think that is part of it. Is that before Xbox really started looking towards the future, they locked down their legacy. And for them it was a little easier. It's a little tighter. They've only had 2 other generations that they've got to worry about. But they're like, let's lock that up. Everything comes forward, and now we're kind of moving from there. But Nintendo never really did that. It's always been this or that or another thing for how you deal with the legacy system. So maybe that's part of it. Just like let's figure out a way to make all the old games just available in some way.
My answer's simple, and I think it's the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
You create like the eShop that is the forever eShop.
Yeah.
Where no matter what console we put out, the first thing we do when we build that console, that eShop needs to be able to be here. This way, any purchases that I make on the Switch carry forward. Now, I'm not talking about like obvious. I mean, and I would. Yeah, you know what? I am talking about that. If I buy Breath of the Wild today, I want to be able to play Breath of the Wild on the next console that they put out.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking about.
So everything should move forward. At this point...
You're talking about forward compatibility, actually. You're not even talking about backwards compatibility because you're building games now for games in the future.
Yes.
And Xbox gets credit right now because it's what's happening, but PC has been doing this forever.
Yeah.
And Steam gets this right now. Like, you pop up on Steam, and like you don't know what generation of game this is. It's like I've got games like Baldur's Gate on there all the way up to Everspace and whatever. Just all these games from all generations. That's the Nintendo ecosystem that people are looking for. So this is your library.
So if I buy Breath of the Wild over here, I should be able to just download it over here and play it.
Just play it.
And I would just make my console, because listen, you and I have been on this, and I've mentioned it a million times in the past. I feel like we're stuck with the Switch for a good 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And people look at me and they go, "You're crazy." No, I'm not.
No, you're not.
They're going to make iterations on it, yes. They're going to upgrade. They're going to do pros. They're going to do the new Switch Lite, the super new Switch Lite, the new Switch Lite. They're going to do that and name it stupid things. But ultimately, the concept is here. Yeah. We are so far away from a regular bot. Because here's the thing. I'll say it, and I believe it. This is going to be the last time you buy an Xbox and a PlayStation. This is the final iteration. There will not be. I don't believe there's going to be a PS6, and I don't think there's going to be an Xbox, whatever it is. Because we don't know what this means. Listen, you're talking You're talking about the PS5 and the Xbox, whatever. It's going to probably be a 10-year console, right?
Yeah.
At that point, it's done. At that point, what is it? xCloud is going to take over. PlayStation is already partnering with Microsoft to do their version of it.
Yeah.
It's done. They are not going to do any of that. Like, my feeling is, as we're moving into the next Xbox, I question what's the point of even having an Xbox. When you have the fact that they're showing you how to play on your cell phone with a controller, what's the point of having an Xbox?
Yeah.
I don't understand. I get it, but I don't get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Because you have to do the transition. You have to appease the people that are stuck in archaic times that don't want to move forward, and then you have to present the future. And I feel like Xbox is at the cusp of the future.
The internet itself is the thing that's going to hold that whole progression back. And so I think you're right in that Nintendo, like the Switch is here to stay.
Yeah.
But I also think that the same goes for PlayStation and Xbox in a very similar fashion, where the mobile market, like the phone market, the way that we buy phones is how we're going to buy consoles. And you're not going to even realize that you've moved forward in generations anymore. Like the generation concept is gone. Yeah. But I think we're going to be buying consoles for a long, long time, to be honest with you. There's too many people. Well, you have good internet.
Yeah.
Like there are the number of people who don't have good internet it's mind-boggling. Like it's again one of those numbers that's like inconceivable. We don't even understand it. But when we also talk about like the tens of millions, or in some cases for PlayStation, like hundreds of millions of people who play that, like it wasn't that. It was just at the start of this generation of people. Like even if you have to check in, even if you have access to the internet. If you required access to the internet just to check in, was a deal breaker for Xbox. That was what broke them. Access, not even having maintained great internet for streaming. It was this generation that broke the launch to just people going like, I don't have internet. Enough people said, I don't have internet to go, that's not my option. Yeah. So let alone talking about strong internet where I'm playing the games that are actually hosted somewhere else. I don't know what you're giggling about.
I'm giggling because in the meantime, every single time I turn my Switch on, it's right here on my desk. It has to check in before I play a game.
I know, and Nintendo gets away with it.
Well, it's
like,
also my second Switch. It doesn't do
same.
it for my first Switch.
Exactly.
You know? So that's
exactly.
a little different. Like
exactly.
If I had to do it every single time I played, it'd be a problem. You know what I mean?
I'm not trying to defend that. I'm mostly just trying to convey that like internet access and the ubiquity of it is so important to all of this. And I think that you're right. The Switch is the future. It's the Game Boy. It's the DS. It's the 3DS. Like, it's not even like this is a new concept. So we shouldn't really be surprised. And so maybe to Zach's point, like, do you communicate that? Do you go, the Switch is here for like our plan is like PlayStation they just trademarked like PlayStation all the way up to 10, I think, like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They just trademarked all those things. Yeah. So they've got it. And that's maybe as much of a hint as you want to show, or that's
just future proofing,
because you don't want to like commit to the next like 70 years.
No,
like really.
For me, I just think that like as we move forward, I just see it being like done. I mean, I might be going as too bold to be like, hey, there won't be a PlayStation 6, but I just in my heart feel like 10 years from now, the gaming world is different.
Yeah,
and I know you're saying, like, well, people don't have good internet or whatever like that. Agreed. Yeah, they don't. But if you're able to accomplish what Google is promising, where you don't need a good PC, basically we're going to harvest everything at our offices, then really, do you need good internet? And I think that's what I'm saying. Like, in the future, I don't think good internet, any of that, is really going to mean anything. I mean, time will tell, but the one thing that I will give Xbox credit for and Microsoft credit for is they are always pushing the envelope. They're trying to innovate the gaming sphere. Mm-hmm. And the fact that like here's PlayStation going like, hey, we want in on this. We're gonna help. Like they didn't go to Google. They're like, no, we're going to PlayStation. We're going to Xbox. That speaks volumes.
Yeah,
that speaks volumes. But I also think it's a little bit of Sony's a little afraid of what Google could.
Everybody should be afraid of what Google's up to. Yeah, they're just monstrous. But Microsoft is monstrous too. They somehow like they still fly under the radar because Google and Apple get all the credit, but like Microsoft, like year over year, is like biggest company in the world. Like they're there, man. Like they are absolutely. But I don't know. Maybe it's just they took a dip and nobody realized that they're kind of.
That's because,
but they're not owning your data in the way that Google is. Like they're not they're not so pervasive in your lives as Microsoft is. So maybe that's part of it.
Yeah.
But what about so ecosystem is what. So I want to talk a little, if you can, just for a quick moment about like keeping you locked in to Nintendo, which I think is kind of like when I hear ecosystem, that's what I think about. Like what are you doing to draw me back to your system time and time again, like about achievements and trophies and things like that. Like where like I am locked into Apple. For the rest of my life, I will be buying an Apple phone because I guess maybe it's the same answer. It's just like this stuff just carries over.
Well, before the show, you and I mentioned something, right? So we're talking about Elgato. Mm-hmm. And
it just works.
Because I was saying to you, like, I want to buy the Elgato lights, the key lights, but they're expensive. They're $200 a clip. And I'm like, I need two. And you're like, well, do you really need new lights? I'm like, dude, everything just links together. Like, I just like that aspect of, like, things work. Like, do I need to buy a new iPhone? Not right now, I don't know. But, like, I know my next phone will be an iPhone. Mm-hmm. Because the fact of, like, if I'm sitting here and I'm doing stuff and this phone rings, I don't have to stop what I'm doing and answer the phone. I can literally click answer on my computer, headsets on, microphone's here, and I can answer the call right here.
Yeah.
So
it's nice.
It's really nice. So, and the same thing with an iPad, and the same thing with like, so when you have all these things that are integrated and just work, you want to continue to push that envelope and keep going down that road.
Right.
And it's very similar in terms of gaming. I had always said, I was notorious for saying, like, when the Wii U era was there and people were complaining, like, there's no games, I was entrenched in Nintendo's ecosystem. Mm-hmm. Meaning I had a 3DS, I had a Wii U, and when Nintendo put out a game on the Wii U, I played it on the Wii U, and when they put it on the 3DS, I shifted focus to the 3DS. So I always felt like I had something I was playing.
Yeah.
Right now, I feel like I have too many games. I can't even look to see what I want to play. It's insane. It's
okay. I hear next year there are no games, so you're fine. I hear there are 0 games in 2020.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
I'm just kidding. There's gonna be so many. Next year's gonna be a disaster.
It's gonna be worse.
Yeah.
I almost wish it was the Wii U era again because I actually played and beat games.
Careful what you wish for. Exactly. Careful what you wish for.
I actually played and beat games back then. I haven't.
Bobby,
GameStop
is going away. GameStop is dying. And that is a serious issue when you're talking about trying to keep people going from like one to the next, because that trade-in is going to go away. Like people have this built-in way to go. Like for some people, not like I don't recommend trading in hardware for number one. But if the iterations from one to the next are going to be minuscule and just like you're just getting a little bit of a boost of power, to me, it's like I've done that with my original Xbox. Like I traded in my original Xbox for the S. Right? I don't care that I don't have the VCR anymore. Yeah. And it's the same with the phones. Like you have built-in trade-ins, either with the fact that you're paying these things off. You're not dumping. Nobody pays $1,000 for a phone. You pay it off with your subscription fee. Or like Best Buy will have that trade-in value. So I think that there's something that Nintendo has to do to keep you buying its systems over and over again, especially when GameStop goes away.
I absolutely felt and feel there should be a trade-in system on Switches.
Yeah. Very
similar like what Apple does.
Yeah. Well, Microsoft just launched it. Like they essentially have already started selling Scarlets.
Yeah.
Because they this all access thing where you can, it's like a phone plan. You get your Game Pass and your Xbox Live and everything, and then there's an additional like couple dollars a month, and it essentially pays off your system. And at the end of it, it says with a built-in trade up for Scarlet.
Yeah.
So they're actually they've got a year start on like those things are almost guaranteed to turn into Scarlet systems. I think that is so smart.
Yeah.
And Nintendo definitely, like, people would do that in a second because they're locked in. They'll buy anything Nintendo. They're like, yeah, just tell me what I'm buying and I'll pay for it.
Yeah. And I think that's part, I think ultimately what they, so let me just step it back a little bit. I think if you want to fix the ecosystem, I think there's a couple of steps that we need to do. Number one, again, you need to have an eShop that's all-inclusive, that moves forward as well as backwards. You need to be able to just play games whenever you want them, on any console that you have, moving forward, go. If I bought Breath of the Wild on the Switch, it should be on the Switch Pro, it should be on the Switch Super Pro, it should be whatever we move forward, it should always be there. Even if there isn't a Switch, let's just say they bring back the Super Nintendo, and it's a double Super Nintendo that has, like, sits on the desk. I should be able to go back, buy Breath of the Wild, load it back on there, and play again. That's number one. Number two, I feel like they should do something in terms of like digital purchases, and meaning if I buy stuff, work stuff where it's, you can trade it in, get rid of it, or just be like, I don't like this, take it back, or cancel pre-orders, things like that. Like, that is an issue right now where you can't cancel pre-orders. I pre-order a game, I fully pay for it, Nintendo won't cancel it. And I feel like that needs to stop. And then I think otherwise, I think they're in a good place in terms of, I would also announce that, like, hey, our game plan moving forward is you will be playing some form of the Switch. As of right now, not saying that this won't change, but as of right now, we're looking at a 10, 20, 30-year projection of some iteration of the Switch. Feel comfortable to buy what you're going to buy now. We're going to keep it cartridge-based for now until that basically becomes a digital market, and go that route. Yeah. And I think if you do those couple of things, people will be fine. I think the main thing that Nintendo needs to get away from, the easiest way to create your ecosystem is to try to get away from the secrecy.
Yeah.
Just let people know what your future. Not everything. Obviously, you're not going to be like, hey, man, we're working on Breath of the Wild 3 right now. Like, you don't want to do that stuff.
But there's certain things that you can do that show people that they're like, that things make sense. Like where if you have, like we're starting to see Bluetooth become a standard and USBs become a standard, where you don't have to have like these proprietary even connection points for your controllers, even where you go, people spending $220 on a damn controller for Xbox, and people go, is it going to work with the next one? Like, well, yeah, of course. Like, it's not like any of these connection technologies are proprietary. Like, they carry through. So you have to start creating those pathways that people go, okay, it would make sense for it to carry forward. They don't have to tell you, but you can have a pretty safe assumption. So, like, I don't want to slam Nintendo too much because they've shown this before with the Wii and the Wii U. That was about as close to an ecosystem as I think we could have possibly gotten. That's a natural iteration from GameCube to Wii to Wii U was kind of that. Like even with controllers all working together and stuff, we've walked away from that. But I'd jump into that. We didn't even really talk about accessories and components and things like that. But that's all part of it when we're talking about ecosystem for sure.
Yeah. I would basically just let people know that this is going to be the way it is for a super long time. And and to be honest with you, if you want to sell more Switches, I would tell people, like, we're going to open up the internet access and you can use xCloud on this. You know what I mean? Like, make it where people are buying a Switch to play the xCloud. Yeah. Would that make a lot of sense?
Yeah. Yeah, probably.
I mean, dude, Sean, you're going to tell me that if Nintendo turned around and said, we now have Xbox Joy-Cons with the with the Xbox configuration on the buttons, here it is, you plug them on and you can play your xCloud games. We now have PlayStation Joy-Cons where you can click them in and boom, and you can play your PlayStation games on this thing. Lights out, dude. Lights out. They're gonna clean up, and you will sell a ton of these. People won't buy tablets. People won't, like, if you're gonna go, hey man, do I want to buy a gaming? Do I want to buy an iPad? Do I want to upgrade my iPad in order to play the xCloud on, right? To make it convenient. You know what? I'm not about to Switch because not only do I get to Switch and all the games on the Nintendo, I can then play the xCloud.
I mean,
makes sense to me.
It gets to a scary point because, like, that's like step one before Microsoft becomes self-aware and destroys us all, right? Like that's like Nintendo. Nobody's thinking as big as I know. Like it sounds fanboy to say, but nobody's thinking that big. Maybe Google, but nobody is thinking about like the takeover. Yeah. And because everybody's thinking about how many consoles are you selling, Microsoft's like, we don't care about that anymore. Yeah. We care about how many people are like funneling $10 or $15 a month to us. Yeah. And they're going to become like this juggernaut. I'm not sure that like Nintendo's building theme parks. Like it's just totally different.
Well, because Microsoft has so many toes in the water with all different things that Nintendo needed to diversify their portfolio. And that's ultimately why they're doing what they're doing. Listen, Windows is on every single PC in the world.
That's what I'm saying. So doesn't that scare you? Like Mac can't even do gaming anymore. Like they don't even do gaming. Like they've just completely shut them out of that.
And that's fine. To me, I
don't feel like fan, it is scary.
That don't scare me. That don't scare me because here's the thing. Wow. Listen, Nintendo makes the greatest games in the world. Mm-hmm. Until Microsoft steps that up
on xCloud.
Yeah, but until Microsoft steps that up, doesn't bother me.
I'm not talking short term for sure. I'm not talking like even within the next generation, nothing to be worried about. I'm really talking long term here. And if this thing like takes off and nobody else is even close to, like Google's not even close, PlayStation isn't close, Nintendo's not even thinking about this sort of stuff.
No,
like they're doing it now. Man, I think it's crazy. I'd be very curious to see what people think. I know there's primarily just like Nintendo fans listening to the show, but I really like to think like what people how they expect this all to roll out. Of Xbox, and I've talked about it too, being even with achievements being available on Nintendo. I thought it was a mistake actually because it's Microsoft just like, okay, we're buddy, and then they stab you in the back, like, and then they kind of completely take over. Like it's a business relationship. It's not because they like each other, but that's what it looks like. Everybody's like they're buddy, and we call it that. But it's a business relationship. It makes them way more money to have these things, to have Minecraft on the Switch as they know it with their other systems. Yeah, that's beneficial to me way more Microsoft than Nintendo.
Yeah.
So I get a little scared about it.
I'm not worried about it. Everything's good. Everything's good.
I know.
So that is all. Thank you, guys. We got Kirby. Kirby will suck up Microsoft in a second.
I'm not allowed to say Kirby anymore.
Thank you guys for listening to another episode of If We Ran Nintendo. Episode 175 is now in your ears. Be sure to check out everything that Sean Capri is doing over on the internet. Sean like Connor and Capri like Pants on the Twitters. Check him out on twitch.tv/Sean Capri. Check me out over on Twitter at Nintendo Gurus. That is all. Peace out, Preston.
Bye.